Hello, Sudoku friends, and welcome to quite a few new subscribers. I'm really grateful to see that my efforts are bearing fruit, and I welcome all of you, and I hope that you will have a lot of fun watching videos about solving classical Sudokus, most of them without using pencil marks. I briefly glanced over this New York Times Hard Sudoku. Today is November 13, and I was wondering if it would be worthwhile using it as a demonstration for today's video. And I do believe that it has a few points that can be instructional. Anyway, I've decided to do this puzzle today, and we might as well get started. What did occur to me when I glanced over the puzzle in the morning was that there are very few obvious single digits that we can enter. And of course, that will always present a sort of a challenge, and I'm happy for that. So if we can't do anything else, we can start counting. And the obvious choice would be to start with a column or a row that has quite a large number of digits already as givens. So for this column 8, we need to find a 1, 5, 8, and a 9. And see here, we have a 1, 5, 8 already in this row. So this cell must be a 9. And now these cells will have to be a 1, 5, and an 8. And I can't immediately see where they would go. So, but at least we found one digit. And that's always something. And this digit, the 9 here and the 9 here, gives me a 9 for one of these two cells. And therefore, for one of these two cells. Not immediately useful, but I will keep that in mind and hopefully get back to it a little later. By the way, I'm noticing that the 1 here and the 1 here will give me a 1 for one of these two cells. And since these cells are all occupied already, I know that a 1 for the center row will have to go either here or here. And that is also the case for the 7s, isn't it? The 7 here and the 7 here, they block these two cells and these two cells, and the 7 here blocks these two cells. So these two cells will have to be a 1 and a 7 pair. And that is very helpful because the remaining three cells, namely this cell, and this cell, will have to be a 2, 5, and an 8 now. And we happen to have a 5 and an 8 already in this column. Therefore, this cell must be a 2. This cell must now be a 5 or an 8, and this cell must be a 5 or an 8, but we already have a 5 in this column. Therefore, it will have to be an 8, and the 5 goes here now. Well, that's some progress. The 8 here and the 8 here, plus these two 8s, force an 8 into this cell. We have a little treat, I think. The 2 and the 4 here cover these two cells, don't they? So we have a 4 and a 2. They both block this cell. So these two cells will have to be a 2 and a 4. And that makes this cell and these two cells a 3, 6, and a 7. This cannot be a 7, and the 7 here prevents this from being a 7. Therefore, this will have to be a 7. And now we have a 7 here and a 7 here, and we have these two 7s, and they give us a 7 for this cell right here. Now we need a 3 and a 6 for this cell and for this cell. Oh, that's nice, I think. Look at the 6 here. The 6 here forces a 6 in one of these two cells. Remember, it can't go here or here because they have to be a 2 and a 4. So this cell will have to be a 6, and this cell could also be a 6, and they could also be a 3. So we have a 3, 6 pair going on here. We have a 3-6 pair going on here. Let's see. And the 4 here forces a 4 into one of these. And these two cells will have to be a 7 and a 9 because there's a 7 here that blocks these two cells, and there's a 7 here that blocks this cell. So the 7 will have to go either here or here. That's clear. But about the 9s now, the 9 here forces a 9 in one of these two cells, and the 9 here, of course, blocks this cell. So a 9 won't be able to go here because there will be a ghost 9 in these two cells. So the other digit that will go up here together with the 7 is going to be a 9. Now, disregarding the 7 and the 9 here, the remaining 3 digits in the top row will have to be a 3, 5, and a 6. So this must be a 3 or a 5. And this already we know was a 3 or a 6, and this was a 3 or a 6. Let's see how close we can get. Ah, I see something else. There's certainly a pattern with the 3s and the 6s and the 9s going on. I think we already agreed that this cell must be a 3 or a 6, and so must this. Because it can't be a 1, 2, it can't be a 3, but not a 4 or a 5. It can be a 6, but not a 7, not an 8, and not a 9. So these two cells are pairs of 3 and 6. And that makes this a 4 or a 9, and this a 4 or a 9. And that gives us a 6. Because if these two are pairs of 3s and 6s, then we know that a 6 will go in this column in one of these two cells. And therefore a 6 won't be able to go in this cell. And since we have already a 6 for the 8th and the 9th row, we need to find a 6 for the 7th row. And since it can't go here, it is forced to go into this cell, isn't it? And now let's revisit the top row. Remember the 7 and the 9 here. We needed to find an additional 3, 5, and a 6 for the top row for this cell and this cell and this cell. Now, this 6 blocks this cell from being a 6, and this 6 blocks this cell from being a 6. Therefore, this is where the 6 must go. That puts a 6 in this cell, doesn't it? Because these are 7 and 9s, and these are 2s and 4s. So this has got to be a 6, and therefore this is going to be a 6. And remember that these were 3-6 pairs, therefore this is going to be a 3. That's kind of neat. I'm starting to like this puzzle because it has an intriguing logic. Now, the 3 here and the 3 here, of course, puts a 3 up here. And we just need to find a 5 now. And that will need to go here, won't it? And now with the 7 and 9 pair here, the row is complete. These 3 empty cells will have to be a 4, 5, and a 9. We have a 5 here, and therefore this cell must be the 5. And these two will have to be 4 and a 9 in some order. And this, of course, also is a 4 or a 9. We found that out earlier. But what's more, if these are a 4 and a 9, then these two will have to be a 1 and a 7, won't they? And we have a 7 in the corner down here. So the 7 goes here and the 1 here, and that gives us a 3 for this cell, which we remember, by the way, was a 3 or a 6 anyway. So we could have entered that earlier when we found the 6. Never mind, though. As long as we get the digits filled in, we're happy. I nearly overlooked the single one that will have to go here. See, we don't have any other cell available in this row for a 1 because this cell is blocked by the 1 here. So this is good one to find. And remember how these two cells had to be a 1 and a 7? Now we know that the 1 will go here and the 7 must go here. The 7 here, and this 7 forces a 7 up here. And as we recall, the other digit was a 9. It goes here now. We know that this cell must be a 3, don't we? Because of the 3 up here and the 3 here. This is the only cell that can be a 3 in this row. Now we need a 4 for this cell, or for this cell, and the other digit must be a 9. Since we already have a 4 here, the 9 will go here and the 4 will go here. And now that is a 4, of course, and that makes this a 4, and the other digit here was a 9. The 9 here and here puts a 9 in this cell, doesn't it? These two cells now have to be a 2 and an 8. We have a 2 already in the top here, so the 8 goes here and the 2 here. And these two now have to be a 1 and an 8, leaving just one cell to find, and of course that is a 6. The 6 here blocks these two cells, and the 6 here blocks this cell. So a 6 for this column must go here. And let's see, we are getting very close, I think, to cracking this one. Sometimes at this stage I get really confused myself, and I don't really know where to begin to attack, because it seems to be so easy with so many digits already found and placed. So I need to look a few times to find the next number, and it really ought to be very easy. But I did manage to find a 5 for this cell, because this column needs a 1, 5, and an 8 still, and we have a 1 and an 8 in the row. So the 5 must go here, and that puts a 5 in one of these two cells, doesn't it? And this is now a 1 or an 8, and this is a 1 or an 8. These 3 digits down here will have to be a 3, 4, and a 9. There's a 4 here. No, no, no. Well, 9, yes. I'll just have to wait a second. Oh, I think I finally woke up. We need to find a 2, 5, and an 8 for column 9, and we have a 2 and a 5 already in this box. So the 8, of course, now must go here, and that puts an 8 in this cell and in this one, and this is now a 1, and so is this one. No further explanation, I guess, are necessary at this stage. These two cells now have to be a 4 and a 3, and that leaves only this cell to be sorted, and that now must be a 9. The 9 here and here, and the 9 here gives us this 9 up here, and therefore a 9 down here. I didn't even have to think about that, because I knew from earlier that the 9 here blocked these 3 cells. So I knew for the longest time that one of these 2 cells would have to be a 9. And as soon as I found this 9 here, my mouse immediately moved down here, because I knew that is the only place it could go. Now this is a 3 or a 4, and this is a 3 or a 4. And given the 3 up here, we know that this must be a 4 and this is a 3. And therefore this must be a 4. We still need to find a 2 and a 3 for these two cells, and there's a 3 already here, so the 2 goes here and the 3 here. Now the 2 here and here finally resolves the 2 and the 5 we had here for some time, and this cell is going to be a 5 now, and that makes this a 5. This has got to be a 2, and so does this. And remember the old 2, 4 friends? This is now the 4. I think this puzzle was really worth it, because it had some, well, I wouldn't say fascinating, but at least some interesting logic. And it did require me to think a little bit more than usual for the New York Times Hard Sudoku. Anyway, I do hope that you enjoyed it, and if you did, would you mind giving it a thumbs up? It's not to stroke my ego, but it's more that you can thereby enable Google's algorithm to find more users who might be interested in solving Sudokus without using annotation or pencil marks. That's all for today. Thank you so much for watching, and see you again soon. Bye bye.